Now, this is my almost always my favorite section out of every. What other risks? What's your default rate?
So yeah, that's a great question. I mean, the default rate for the industry is 6.3%. For our company, we're at 2.7. So we well under index the industry rate. I think we have things in place that help us. One, there are a small minority of folks that ask for extensions. And if they are approved, they get a 15-day extension. But that also means the interest rate ticks up as well, right? But again, that's a small amount of folks that apply for those extensions, and it helps us with the default rate, right? We want to make sure that we're doing everything we can from a communication standpoint to help those folks if they need some extra time. Want to make sure that we have something available to them, right? I'll give you an example. Late March, April, there was severe flooding in Kenya, and folks just couldn't get to work, right, because of the flooding issues. And so there were some, we had more than we usually have asked for extensions, but it didn't stop our overall operation, right? So things like that happen, but we want to make sure that from we have clear communication to help those folks when needed.
Okay, what are the risks? Tell me all about the risks.
Well,
Tell
I mean, look, obviously the risk, one of the biggest risk is our borrowers, right? I mean, if the borrowers revolted tomorrow and said we're not going to use a microloan platform, I mean that would be a spin out for us, right? The chances of that happening is very small, but there's always a risk that the borrowers could revolt from the whole industry, not just us, right?
right.
I think one of the other biggest risks is one that I just mentioned earlier, but the flooding that happened. Those are uncontrollable issues that come up, and we're very fortunate it did not stop our operation in April. We had a very good April as far as from the number standpoint of how many loans were put out at that time. But those are the things that happen. I'll give you another couple examples. In June, there was political uprising. The president in Kenya announced tariffs and taxes on consumer goods. And there was a political group of young college students that were protesting. And they did this for a couple of weeks. Unfortunately, there was a fatality as well because of it. And then finally, the president backed down on the tariffs and taxes that he announced, right? But during that whole time, we did not have an interruption in our day-to-day operation. And then I'm sure you're well aware of what happened, what back in September or before the week of September, when CrowdStrike failed and systems went down. Airlines were punished because the airline industry went down for what 24 hours. Banking services across the globe went down because of that system, and it did not interrupt our operations in Kenya. So, very fortunate that three uncontrollable issues that came up in our industry, and it did not interrupt our day-to-day operations. So, yes, there are risks and those things that could happen, right? There could be political uproar, there could be military uproar. All those things are uncontrollable, but we feel very confident that what's going on in Kenya. Um, there's been major announcements of infrastructure commitments. Microsoft announced $1 billion commitment to the digital infrastructure in Kenya, right? So they're investing $1 billion to support them. Uh, Safaricom, who owns M-Pesa, the digital banking service, they're talking to Starlink about Starlink or being available in Kenya. So a lot of good things are happening. Even the Bill Gates Foundation has committed to millions of dollars to support the micro enterprises that are owned by women, right? So there's a lot of positive that's going on in Kenya, and we want to continue to grow our prospects as well.
Okay. Um, that then you summarize the risk. and there's a risk I always want to mention to all my audience and ask you as well whenever I do this interview. There's always a inherent risk of you guys taking the money and run. What do you say to that?
Yeah, Cindy, that's a great question. I mean, I was just at a family office conference in New York. I got asked that question many times. A lot of folks have been burned by Ponzi schemes, right?
Right,
Uh,
Ponzi scheme, exactly. That's my next question.
yeah, so I think the biggest thing to communicate to you and your team and your followers, right, is that we actually do what we say we're doing. We do over 1 million loans a month. $57 is the average loan. We don't have $65 million sitting in the bank for me or our CEO or our CFO to just go do whatever we want to do with it, right? That money's out in the market doing exactly what we say it's going to do. And that's important to understand that because the Ponzi schemes of the world, the FTXs of the world, raised a lot of money on pretenses, and when they raised that money, they had no idea what to do with it, right? Other than pretend to play Monopoly. But we don't have that case. The money is out doing exactly what we say it's supposed to do.
Okay, but how are you sure of that? Do you have access to the bank account? Can you see it? Do you see it like how are you sure? Are you guys audited? Like what are the
No, no. Look, we're private sector, but we also do our own audits. We just finished a 2023 audit, just waiting for the final stamp to come through. 2024 is going to be done. We're going to go through that audit as well. We're doing exactly what we say we're doing. I mean, when I started in this company, we're doing $10 million a month in microloans. We're doing 65 million today. We're growing fast, but we're also doing what we say we're doing.
and do you see that money? Do you see that money in the bank account? Like do you see money come in out of the bank account? Do you have
Yeah, I mean, I see money especially the money that comes in, I see that coming in every day. I see it being deployed to, it gets wired to our account here. I also see the deployment of money going to Kenya through our digital banking service, right? It's happening on a day-to-day basis. Now we here in the US, as lending money comes in, we do 2 transactions a month to Kenya because it is costly to transfer money, believe it or not. So to keep expenses down, operating costs down, we only do two um, deposits to Kenya, and then we have one that comes back, right? Meaning that we have to pay those folks that have been in the program and they're now taking, the interest they've earned, they're now dispersing of it.